4, halt! Facing to the left, face.
Sequence 1, automatic cut.
Drums, roll off.
President of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation. On behalf of our board and staff, I'd like to welcome you to Monticello to celebrate Thomas Jefferson's 272nd birthday. Please rise and place your hand over your heart for the posting of the colors.
Roll up.
Now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll up. Step, have a care. Step, right, step.
And welcome again to Monticello. We
Stick
welcome
tap.
all here this morning, and a special welcome to Representative Robert Hurt, representing Virginia's 5th Congressional District, home to Monticello. I also ask that you join me in extending a heartfelt thank you to the Thomas Jefferson chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution and the United States Army Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps for their participation in this morning's ceremony. In 1801, at the dawn of his presidency, Thomas Jefferson declared, "The only birthday I ever commemorate is that of our independence, the 4th of July. But every April, we respectfully ignore his wishes and gather here at Monticello, on hallowed ground, on his birthday, to honor Jefferson's unparalleled contributions. Founding father, innovative genius, architect of American life. As author of the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson provided a new nation with its mission statement. Today, we celebrate that legacy, and we recognize 3 extraordinary individuals who embodied Jefferson's commitment to public service. We are honored today to have one of those medalists with us this morning, and to introduce him, it would be my pleasure to introduce the Honorable John Charles Thomas, Emeritus Trustee of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation. Judge Thomas has given more than 2 decades of service, transformational service, to Monticello. Most recently, his leadership has guided our efforts to reveal Mulberry Row, the landscape of slavery, and the stories of the people, both free and enslaved, who lived and labored on this mountaintop. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable John Charles Thomas.
Good morning. Each year, in collaboration with the University of Virginia, we present our highest honors, the Thomas Jefferson Medals in Architecture, Law, and Citizen Leadership. The medals recognize individuals who embrace endeavors that were meaningful to Jefferson and in which he excelled. It is my distinct privilege to introduce our speaker this morning, the Honorable John Lewis, Congressman of Georgia, recipient of the 2015 Thomas Jefferson Foundation Medal in Citizen Leadership. Congressman Lewis has lived the life of a citizen leader. Since the 1960s, he has been on the front lines of struggle for change and for equality in our nation. In 1963, he was one of the organizers of the March on Washington, and he was the youngest of the speakers on that platform that day at the Lincoln Memorial. In 1965, which we see so much about now 50 years later, he helped lead that protest across the Edmund Pettus Bridge on the march from Montgomery to Selma, the Selma March. And there, he put his very body in harm's way for good and for change and for justice in America. He has been, in his life, a chief architect of the American civil rights movement. He's always advocated nonviolence, and he did it in the face of unspeakable danger. Since 1968, he has pursued the work of citizen leadership as the representative of Georgia's 5th District. He is aptly described as the conscience of the American Congress. He holds a BA in religion and philosophy from Fisk University. He's a graduate of the American Baptist Theological Seminary. He is a winner of the nation's highest civilian order, the Medal of Freedom. He is co-author of March, a best-selling trilogy of graphic novels. At Monticello, we take all of Jefferson, all his complexity, even the conflicts within him, and we confront the need for change, the need for betterment in our society, and we remember that he said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Congressman Lewis has been part of that pursuit all his days. Here he is now. Let's welcome him.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Judge Thomas, for that warm and kind introduction. It is a great honor for me to share this moment with you here on this special hill, the home of Thomas Jefferson, our 3rd president on the day of his birth, Founders Day. I want to thank President Bowman, the Board of Trustees, and the entire Thomas Jefferson Foundation for granting me the Citizen Leadership Medal, and I applaud the 2 others medalists who are richly deserving of this honor. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Signed into law July 4, 1776, and written mainly by Thomas Jefferson himself, the Declaration of Independence is a statement of the purpose and the ideals of this nation. And it is this document that set us apart from most countries on earth. We are not formed by the outcome of war, the procession of kings, the passage of time, or the mandate of government. This nation, our nation, rose up from the death of the human soul. A divine virgin, a virgin beyond words of this declaration is written on the heart of all humankind. There are conditions on this earth that try to stamp this crowd and snuff it from our memory. But the endless story of human history revealed to us that it can never, ever die. It rises like a phoenix born again from the ashen dust of limitation, the hard hand of oppression, and the cruelty of injustice. It overcome all darkness with the glory of the light. Being here on this place, on this little piece of real estate, is almost too much for me. Breathing the air that Jefferson's one breathed. Remind us of this struggle, which unite us all, the deathless human quest for freedom and the right to liberation of the entire creation. We are fortunate, my beloved brothers and sisters, that Jefferson and the other founders were able to articulate this simple truth and place it at the center of our being as a nation. Because in the end, it is the reason for every war, the mandate of all peace. It is the heartbeat of every movement and the drumbeat of transformation. It is the demand of every activist and the guiding principle of every president. Thus, we have been working ever since Jefferson first wrote those words to rectify the true meaning of equality and shape our society in ways that protect what must never be abridged by the dictates of government, by the tyranny of the powerful, to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Recently, President Obama, the First Lady, and his family, along with President George W. Bush and the First Lady Laura Bush, join us at the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge to honor the 50th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. We return here to this place, to these grounds, to this beautiful home, to be reminded of what happened and how it happened in the struggle for human dignity in America. In 1965, just 50 years ago, it was almost impossible for the African American to register and vote in the Deep South. We had to pass a so-called literacy test, pay a poll tax. On one occasion in my native state of Alabama, a man was asked to count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap. On another occasion, a man was asked to count the number of jelly beans in a jar. There was doctors, lawyers, PhDs, professors were told they could not read or write well enough to pass this so-called literacy test. We had to have another registered voter vouch for our character. And no citizen in his or her right mind would do that in the state of Alabama. The names of people who tried to register to vote were published in the local newspaper. And we could be fired from our jobs, evicted from our farms, beaten, shot, and even killed for simply trying to register to vote. During those days, the early 60s, I served as chair of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which began working in Selma in 1962. Day in and day out, we would stand quietly in line at the courthouse to attempt to register and vote. There was a sheriff by the name of Jim Clark, who wore a gun on one side carried a nightstick on the other side, and carried an electric cap rodder in his hand, and he didn't use it on cows. He wore a button on his left lapel that said never. But on March 7, 1965, a few innocent children of God, some carrying only a bedroll, a few clutching a simple bag, a plain purse, or a backpack, was inspired to walk the 50 miles from Selma to Montgomery, to dramatize to the nation and to the world that people of color want to register to vote. I was wearing a backpack before it became fashionable to wear backpacks. In this backpack, I had 2 books. Wanted to have something to read while I was in jail, I thought. Had 1 apple and 1 orange. I wanted to have something to eat. Now, 1 apple and 1 orange wouldn't last that long. Since I thought I was going to be arrested and be in jail with my friends, my colleagues, my neighbors, had toothpaste and toothbrush. I wanted to be able to brush my teeth. When we arrived at the top of the bridge, down below we saw a sea of blue, Alabama state troopers. We kept walking. We came within hearing distance of the state troopers, and a man identified himself and said, "I'm Major John Cloud of the Alabama State Troopers. This is an unlawful march. It will not be allowed to continue. I give you 3 minutes to disperse and return to your homes or to your church." One young man walking beside me, named Jose Williams from the organization of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, "Major, give us a moment to kneel and pray." He said, "Troopers advance." I said, "Major, may I have a word?" He said, "There will be no word." On that day, March 7, 1965, 600 people marched into history, walking 2 by 2 down the sidewalk with a kind of military distance. We were so peaceful, so quiet, no one saying a word. We came to the highest point below the bridge. We were beaten, tear gas, trampled with horses, was hit in the head by a state trooper with a nightstick, had a concussion at the bridge, thought I saw death, thought I was going to die. 17 of us were hospitalized that day, but somehow we all survived. The words of Jefferson, the words of Martin Luther King Jr., the word of Gandhi, the words of Thoreau and others spoke to our hearts. So those who said to me nothing have changed in the American South, that nothing have changed in America, I feel like saying, come and walk in my shoes. I will show you change. We've come a distance, and we're still on the way. Because of what happened on that day, on Bloody Sunday, the President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson, delivered one of the most meaningful speeches ever made by any president on the question of voting rights or civil rights. He said, "At time, history, and fate meet at a single time and a single place to shape a turning point in man unending search for freedom." He went on to say, "So it was at Lexington and at Concord. So it was at Appomattox. So it was last week in Selma, Alabama." He went on to say, "There's no cause for self-satisfaction in the long denial of equal rights of millions of Americans, but there's cause for hope and for faith in our democracy in what has happened here tonight." He meant in Washington, the nation capital. And it hadn't been for Lyndon Johnson, the Congress, passing the Voting Rights Act, for hundreds and thousands and millions of Americans saying to the Congress, I wouldn't be standing here today, the son of a sharecropper, growing up in rural Alabama, coming under the influence over Rosa Parks or Martin Luther King Jr. and been inspired by the words of Jefferson. So, Madam President, I'm blessed, I'm honored to be receiving this medal and to be here today. So I said to each and every one of you, and especially the young people here, never give up, never give in, never lose hope, keep the faith, and keep your eyes on the prize. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Lewis, for those inspiring words. We're very happy to have you here at Monticello for your first visit. I hope we get to see you again because we need to have you around here with us. That was just a wonderful, wonderful speech. I'm Don King, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Thomas Jefferson Foundation. As a part of our Founders Day tradition, we invite friends and admirers of Jefferson to present wreaths in honor of his birthday. We now invite our special guests to stand behind their wreaths. From the audience's left to right, we wish to thank Lavinia Rogers for the Albemarle chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, Stephen Meeks for the Albemarle Charlottesville Historical Society, Ann Malik and Jane Dittmar for the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors, Dorothy Shiflett for Ashlawn Highland, the College of William and Mary, Eileen Kelly for the Blue Ridge Committee of the National Society of the Colonial Dames of America in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Bridget Warner for the Charlottesville Albemarle Convention and Visitors Bureau, Vice Mayor Dee Dee Smith for the Charlottesville City Council, Chad Zacabe for the Charlottesville Regional Chamber of Commerce, Bill Schwetke for the Culpeper Minutemen chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution, Dr. Michael Dickens for James Madison's Montpelier, James Campbell Gillespie for the Monticello Association, Richard Dana Brockway for the National Society of the Sons of the American Revolution, Dr. Frank Friedman for the Piedmont, Virginia Community College, Dennis Dutterer and Catherine Van Allen for the Thomas Jefferson's Poplar Forest, Bob Short for the Thomas Jefferson chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution, Patrick Kelly for the Virginia Society of the Sons of the American Revolution, Douglas Wayne Harvey for the West Virginia Society of the Sons of the American Revolution, Pamela Higgins for the University of Virginia, Dick and Barbara Fontaine for the Thomas Jefferson Foundation, and William Antholis for the President of the United States. For more than a century, people have gathered at Monticello on Jefferson's birthday to lay wreaths in his honor. Thank you for being part of this long-standing tradition.
We thank you and we invite you to take your seats. And now we invite you all to stand and direct your attention to the American Legion Post 74, who will perform a 21-gun salute, followed by the retrieval of the colors.
Have a care.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. We invite you to continue the celebration, however, and enjoy birthday cake in honor of Jefferson's 272nd birthday, right over there, along with an encore performance of the Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. We want to thank Vincent Rubera, who every year prepares this very special cake in honor of the birthday celebration. And we thank many others in the community who support Monticello. Thank you all for joining us today as we honor Jefferson's 272nd. Thank you.